Hi. So today we're going to talk a little bit about design in a GraphQL conference, but it's going to be interesting. So my name is Bernardo. I work at a company called Travel Republic in London. That's my Twitter handle. If you want to reach out, just feel free to do so. So design and GraphQL, they might seem two very distinct topics, but they might have a little bit more in common than we think. So we're going to start by exploring a little bit of the design side, and then we'll see if we can find some GraphQL along the way. So we'll start talking a little bit about the evolution of design tools. And yeah, I can see some people already kind of, what is this guy talking about? Just bear with me for a little bit, and this will make sense in a bit. So we started some time ago with tools like Microsoft Paint. Tools like that had lots of limitations. But then, as we kind of evolved the design tools, we started with like Photoshop, Illustrator, Fireworks, etc., which much more powerful features. And then kind of came along the more UI-specific tools like Sketch, which introduced the concept of components in a design tool. Lately, we've seen a shift towards Figma. So Figma is a web-based tool. And as a web-based tool, they thought about exploring the concept of an API inside a design tool. So you can check their website. It has lots of good stuff there. So if you don't know Figma, I highly recommend you to check it out. But as a normal REST API, it has many endpoints. So you can see stuff like getting the file information, where you extract all the data that the file contains, but other things like getting the comments, checking like the team projects, etc. Beside that, when you use the endpoint to get the file structure, this is kind of what you get. And obviously, this is just a very small snippet of that structure. But you can see already that it kind of follows a very rigid tree structure. So you have like the nodes, and you have like children, etc. And this mimics with the actual structure of the design file. But this also makes it a little bit harder for people to understand what's going on, because they need to know exactly how the design file is structured. But let's see an example, because I think it's easier for you to understand what I mean. So let's imagine that we want to get all the text styles in a specific frame inside our document. So on the right side, you have the design document, and you can see it's made of pages. You have like the different frames on the left as well. And what we want to extract is this content on the right, which is like in one of those groups on the left side. So like visually, it's easy to understand. But once we go into the API, once we go into the code, it becomes a little bit harder. So these are kind of the steps that we need to extract that information. So we have to fetch the file data through the API call, and then we have to parse that data. And we need to get the styles page first, and then we have to parse that data, and then we have to go to the frames, to the typography frame. And lastly, inside that frame, we need to extract the font styles for each one of the groups that you've seen on the previous slide. So roughly, in terms of code, you can see all the 4 steps here. And you don't have to understand much of what's going on here. But you can definitely see that you need to have some technical knowledge to be able to do this. And not only that, you need to understand the structure of your design file, because it's very related with the hierarchy of that structure. And this is basically what we get from that code. Again, this is just a small snippet of code, but this is basically like just a JSON file where you get the caption style that has multiple substyles, and that's the information that we want to extract. But maybe we can use something simpler, something that doesn't require as much of a technical knowledge as we've just seen. So let's imagine that we can do something like this. So you can see on the right side, we still go to the specific file, then we get the styles page. We can see the typography frame as well there. And then we start extracting the information that we want. So we dive into the groups, we extract the names for each one of the groups, and then inside each one of the groups, we extract information for all the text layers that are inside that group. Seems a little bit easier than doing this through code. But maybe we know what this is, right? And obviously, this is just GraphQL. And it's also not just a concept. You can actually do this today. So this is Figma GraphQL. This is a library that I've been working on the past year or so. And this provides a GraphQL interface for the same Figma API that we've just seen. This project, it is available today, so we've been working on V2, and you can start using that today if you go to Figma GraphQL.party. We haven't officially launched the V2 yet, but we basically rebuilt everything from the previous version. So this, you're probably very familiar with this. This is just the playground for the same GraphQL interface. So you can see on the left side, that's the query that I've just shown you before. And on the right side, that's the result that we get from using the Figma GraphQL library. And you can see that it's pretty much what we had before. The structure changes a little bit, but we can still have the same information that we had before in a much more accessible way. But let's see some other examples, because obviously I think this probably is something that you want to understand in a real case scenario. So we're going to look at this perspective from different people that you might work with. So a designer, a developer, and a manager. So as a designer, you might want to get the background colors of all the global styles. Right now, like design systems are quite a hot topic, so this is something that is probably going to happen in your organizations. So you can see that this simple query would be able to do that. And you can see here already that we kind of, with Figma GraphQL, we kind of break out of the structure, of that rigid structure that you need to understand, like the different compositions of elements inside your design file. And here you can just query for all like the styles that are applied to that that file. And in a different perspective, you have the developer. And this, obviously, this is something that probably most of you relate to. And it's something that companies do more and more often to use the design files as like a source for the React components. And this is basically just a normal action, so extracting all the icons in a design document. And you can do so by using something like this. So you can see again, like it goes through the file, the icons page, and then we start extracting the information that we want. So we want the components, we want the size and the name, etc. And we already have something different here, so we can export that all of those components in an SVG format, which is something that usually front-end developers really need. And this is already kind of stitching together different endpoints from the REST API inside their own context. But that's all abstracted to the user that is consuming this API. And lastly, as a product manager, you might want to get the screenshots of all the prototype screens that the team has been working on in the past month or so. So maybe you want to do something like this. So you have all the projects in your team, and then you want to select a few of those files that you have inside your organization and extract the screenshots for all the prototype frames that you have. And this, I can tell you that this is using 4 different endpoints of the REST API, and it's making like dozens of requests in the background, but it's all abstracted to the end user. And this is basically the topic of this talk. We're using GraphQL to make design more human, to make design more approachable to people without any technical knowledge. But maybe GraphQL is not just about design. Maybe GraphQL can also be used to make technology more human. Because I think that one of the biggest advantages of using GraphQL, more than the type safety and everything, is that it has the potential to make complex systems become much more accessible to humans, to people around us. But that needs to basically make a kind of a shift in the way that we think about our APIs, because most of the time we tend to use like machines as like the target of the way that we build our APIs. But in this case, the Figma GraphQL API is very different from the REST API because we did it on purpose. We wanted to put the people using the library as the first target, as the primary target of this library. So just want to end on this note. This was a tweet by John Gold. This was kind of an inspiration for this new version of the Figma API. And he talks about the human experience inside technology. And I think this is obviously mostly targeting the JS side or like the front-end development, but I think it can be applied to many different things in our work. So just want to leave this question out there, and when we all go back to our work on Monday, maybe we can start thinking about the humans that are consuming our APIs, our systems, our products, and everything, and maybe there's something that we can do a little bit more to help them. So just want to end by thanking Sarah, Andre, and John for contributing and kind of inspiring this new version of the Figma GraphQL library. Again, like you can reach out to me if you want. I'm on Twitter most of the time. And well, thank you. And we can have coffee now, I think. Yeah. So thank you very much.